And so today, Minister of Housing and I are proud to launch Build Canada Homes.
$13 billion for just 4,000 homes. That's Mark Carney's big new housing plan. Do the math. That's more than $3 million per unit. Does this sound like a real solution to Canada's housing crisis? Or a $13 billion joke at the expense of everyday Canadians? Let's break it down.
People have started converting the bus shelters to makeshift homes now in Toronto,
where they're investing $13 billion into 4,000 prefab homes.
Mark Carney just pledged $13 billion for 4,000 homes.
A new department funded by $13 billion of your money.
Mark Carney staged a housing announcement in front of a fake 3-story structure.
The goal, to take on Canada's housing crisis head-on by building affordable homes at scale.
So those who are questioning Mark Carney are asking about the math. If this is a $13 billion
housing plan is to build and make available modular and prefabricated homes.
The goal of this agency is to double the pace of home construction and build 500,000 homes.
$13 billion to initially build 4,000 homes.
Dollars for 4,000 homes is $3.2 million per home. That's not affordable.
Welcome to CanadianRant, the place where we cut through the noise and talk about the struggles too many Canadians are living through every single day. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss these conversations, because here, we speak out loud about what's really happening in this country. Today we're diving into Mark Carney's brand new housing plan, a plan that promises to tackle Canada's housing crisis by spending $13 billion to build just 4,000 homes. Yes, you heard that right, $13 billion for 4,000 homes. Now on paper it sounds like action. But let's ask the real questions. How is this even close to enough when millions of Canadians are struggling to find affordable housing? Who exactly is going to benefit from this plan? And why does it always seem like these solutions come with massive price tags but very little relief for everyday people? The housing market is already broken. Rents are soaring, mortgages are crushing families, and first-time buyers are locked out completely. So is Carney's $13 billion plan the answer? Or is it just another shiny headline with no real impact? Stick around, because today we're pulling back the curtain on what this really means for Canadians.
So it's not all just community housing. There's going to be a mix of housing this $13 billion plan is putting into place. So the government is looking to partner with private developers. They're looking to build modular homes and also some other homes that are, I guess, factory built. Now, the big question is, who is this actually affordable for? And beyond that, it's still a little messy. There's zoning requirements. There's still all that red tape that hasn't magically disappeared. So how is the government actually going to navigate all of this? I want to know, affordable for who? We don't even know what that means anymore. I mean, really, what are they looking to do? And how is this going to help housing affordability going forward? Let me know what you think.
And so today, Minister of Housing and I are proud to launch Build Canada Homes, a new federal entity that will supercharge housing construction across Canada. Build Canada Homes will do several things. It will help fight homelessness by building transitional and supportive housing in close partnership with provinces, territories, municipalities, and Indigenous.
How the fuck does this make any sense? Our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, just pledged $13 billion for 4,000 homes to fight homelessness. Let's do the math. 13 billion divided by 4,000 homes equates to about $3.25 million per home. The majority of Canadians don't even live in a $3.5 million house. For fuck's sakes, most families struggle to pay rent and afford groceries. And we're supposed to believe this is affordable housing? Affordable for who? Here's the kicker. City of Toronto's website shows that as of October of 2024, there are over 15,000 people that are homeless on our streets. 15,000 people, and I guarantee you that number has gone up since then. So even if what Carney was doing was legit, which it isn't, it wouldn't even scratch the surface. So I'll ask again, what the fuck are they doing with taxpayers' money? $13 million, 4,000 homes, 3.5 million apiece. That is not affordable housing. That is corruption, and that's the taxpayers' money being funneled somewhere else. Carney is not solving homelessness. He's not helping Canadians. He's just robbing them straight up. And if this infuriates you like it does for me, share this reels because people need to see this and wake the fuck up.
BC, this just in. We were left out of the housing announcement from Prime Minister Carney. Let's talk about it. British Columbia's Housing Minister, Christine Boyle, said Prime Minister Mark Carney's announcement to build more housing on federal lands is a good start, but it does not include any BC projects. Carney said on Sunday that the newly created Build Canada Homes agency will oversee plans to build 4,000 homes on 6 federally owned sites, but none of those sites are located in BC. Boyle says in a written statement that BC has an abundance of shovel-ready affordable housing projects, adding that the province looks forward to hearing which projects will eventually receive federal funding. But we're curious, how have the challenges with affordable housing impacted you and your family across the country? Do let us know in the comments down below. And also make sure to check out the full story and stories just like it at infonews.ca.
People have started converting the bus shelters to makeshift homes now in Toronto. This is how bad the housing crisis has gotten. This is what is happening now. People are using these bus shelters as their homes. And what does the government do about this? They say they're investing $13 billion to build homes. $13 billion. To only build you 4,000 homes, which means each one of these homes costs $3.25 million. And they wonder why we have such a big homeless problem in this country. They wonder why we have 2 million people that are relying on food banks. They wonder why we have 200,000 people that are homeless in this country. Don't forget about doing the rational thing like tampering down on this mass immigration when we can't obviously house the people in this country, Canadian citizens, in the first place. Let's continue to bring them in addition to all the strain and destruction it's putting with our healthcare system, our infrastructure, with our economy, unemployment through the roof. Forget about all that. And seriously, 4,000 homes? You guys are bringing in this liberal government. Millions of people have been brought into this country. They think 4,000 homes is going to solve the issue. 4,000 homes that also cost $3.25 million when the average Canadian household makes like $90,000 a year.
This Build Canada program launched by the Liberal government a few days ago, where they're investing $13 billion into 4,000 prefab homes. The math doesn't quite add up, not in my opinion anyways. If you split that evenly between the 4,000 units, it basically equates to $3.25 million per unit. And I get it, there's obviously design, infrastructure, there's all these costs associated with development, but we do have in certain urban centers, there are buildings that are sitting vacant. It'd be great if they can just convert existing space, turn that into affordable housing. Who knows what these prefab homes will look like? They have not released any of the details. What I think my interpretation is, these are not for sale. They're going to be for rent. So at the end of the day, that means you are beholden to the federal government. If they want you out, they're going to kick you out. Don't pay your taxes, whatever. If you're delinquent, they're going to control ultimately who lives there, who doesn't live there, how long they live there. You have no control if you don't own that property. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way I interpret it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
And just so you can have a great idea of how absolute BS this government is, Mark Carney staged a housing announcement in front of a fake 3-story structure. I've actually been personally emailed this with pictures from various angles from people who live in the region. This structure was built solely for the press conference and photo op and then torn down afterwards.
I am at the location of Prime Minister Carney's housing announcement a few days ago, and there is nothing here. So all those buildings were brought in just for the photo op.
And you know what's just the worst about this is the fact that it visually misled the public. So if you think they aren't doing that in every other sector, if they're willing to go to this extent for a press conference, they couldn't find a single actual project under construction that they had to build one for use here. you would be an idiot to assume that they're not doing that at much higher scales. And worse, they use taxpayer money for this political theater to try to pretend the optics are rebuilding housing. Look at this big fake construction project behind me. You're manipulating it during a housing crisis. That has got to be one of the most vile and evil things.
I can help you with this. We're looking at investing $13 billion in affordable housing across the country. Mr. Speaker, those initial 4,000 homes will be on Canada lands in 6 cities across the country. That's getting a quick start on building affordable homes. We're going to see tens of thousands of homes built across Canada in all of our communities. We count on the support across the House. Thank you.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
$13 billion for 4,000 homes is $3.2 million per home. That's not affordable. It's all starting to make sense where this scheme was cooked up. You've got a housing minister who oversaw the doubling of rent and the doubling of housing prices when he was mayor of Vancouver. The head of this new agency came from the city of Toronto that increased the cost of building by 700%. It's almost like the interview process for these positions was, are you incompetent? Were you fired from your last job? Once again, for the sake of Canadians begging to buy a home, please tell me this isn't the plan.
Mark Carney just announced a brand new federal agency called Build Canada Homes. The goal of this agency is to double the pace of home construction and build 500,000 homes per year, according to the Liberal government website. And to achieve that, the agency says it will take 4 actions. Number 1, it will invest $13 billion so that builders have the financing that they need to finish big housing projects. Number 2, Carney will open out some public land for housing construction. Right now, 6 federal lands have been identified. Number 3, the construction material will be factory built. And since the agency will order in large quantity consistently, a whole new supply chain industry is expected to form. And number 4, the agency will focus on using Canadian material. Specifically, they will prioritize Canadian lumber, steel, and aluminum to support domestic industries. It is also worth noting that under Carney's administration, we have a new housing minister, Gregor Robertson. Before this, he was the mayor of Vancouver from 2008 to 2018 for 1 whole decade. So here's a big question. With Build Canada Homes, do you think Canada can finally work its way out of this housing crisis? Let me know.
This guy just announced his Build Canadian housing plan. So let's take a look at the main points and see how he plans to make housing more affordable for Canadians. Firstly, eliminate the GST for first-time home buyers on homes under $1 million. And if this sounds familiar, it's because something very similar to this was tabled by Pierre late last year. Eliminating the GST will reduce the cost of new build homes and give builders higher margins. Not only does it help make housing more affordable in the short term, but it also incentivizes building in the long run. My only thing is I don't love restrictive housing policy, which is why I wonder if focusing this only to first-time buyers actually doesn't move the needle much when it comes to affordability. Next is enhancing energy efficiency in homes to help Canadians lower their operating costs, plus support future sustainability goals. Now this sounds great in theory, especially when it comes to helping homeowners reduce their monthly costs. But here's my main concern. Higher energy efficiency also means increasing upfront building costs, unless this is something that's going to be heavily subsidized. In my opinion, increasing costs seems counterproductive to actual affordability, and subsidizing just means more government spending. So I'd want to know what kind of improvements we're talking about and where is the money coming from if it is being subsidized. Third, doubling the amount of non-profit and co-op housing, plus a housing-first approach for vulnerable populations and communities. And don't get me wrong, I love the idea of taking care of the vulnerable population, but I have concerns about the feasibility. My main concerns here are having the access to land for development, facing significant pushback from the not in my backyard community, and overcoming municipal zoning bylaws. But what are your thoughts on this platform? Will this improve affordability?
Surprise announcement from Mark Carney on a Sunday, announcing his $13 billion Build Canada Homes plan. Already, the spin is spinning. No day off for the political pundits who had to react on a Sunday to Mark Carney's $13 billion announcement to build 4,000 affordable homes across the country. But as I already said, the spin is already spinning. So those who are questioning Mark Carney are asking about the math. If this is a $13 billion agency that's going to build 4,000 homes, they're saying, well, is each home going to cost $3.25 million? Now, this seems to be a unique conversation on the X platform. I'm not seeing this $3.25 million number pop up on other channels like Reddit or here on TikTok. But on Twitter, if we look at all the people who are talking about Build Canada homes, a third of them are including this $3.25 million number. The goal, obviously, to question, is this money being put to good use, or are we just throwing dollars at the problem? Yes, we might build these homes, but at what total cost? This, of course, plays into the narrative of the Liberal government who likes to spend, spend, and spend. And if this was a moniker that was applied to Trudeau, and they're looking to apply this as well to Mark Carney. This means that's already going to be a big challenge for the Build Canada homes to manage this perception, and they're going to have to be very transparent on their spending and how it's being applied in order to instill confidence into the Canadian public that these are going to be dollars spent well. What do you think?
Part of Mark Carney's housing plan is to build and make available modular and prefabricated homes. Now, if you don't know, prefab homes and modular homes are pre-constructed basically in a factory and then brought to location and then kind of pieced together. The benefit to these is that they can be built in a factory under a controlled environment, so you don't have to stop for rain and stuff like that. And they can be systemized and kind of pumped out, conveyor belt style. And, it's just quicker than having to put a shovel into the ground and have guys on the ground building this stick house up from the ground up. A lot of the comments, though, that I've seen on any videos that I've made on my YouTube channel or on TikTok and Instagram regarding his housing plan is that nobody wants to live in a modular home. And I think they may have this preconceived notion of a modular home kind of looking like this, but it could look like this. And I think it comes down to people who want homes. They would gladly live in something like this. These people who are saying that nobody wants those, maybe you're saying that from the comfort of your own home that you bought 5-6 years ago, and you're not in the market trying to get a overpriced home right now. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts. Are you okay with this idea of modular and prefab homes to create more affordable supply for Canadians? Could you deal with a house like this or like this? And I'm not saying this is the end all be all solution, but is this going to help? Let me know in the comments.
Give me just a minute. This is really good and I'm going to blow your mind. Check this out. So Mark Carney just launched a new bureaucracy that's going to cost you a significant amount of money. We have literally a housing minister, but he decided to create a new department funded by $13 billion of your money. And this is all in the hopes of building affordable housing. And with that $13 billion, they're looking and they're aiming to build 4,000 housing units. Units being the key word. This is what the units look like that Sean Fraser had just announced when he also was promoting that $13 billion initiative. These units, let me give you a better angle. These units, which are the same ones here, just in a different angle, are no more than 300 to maybe 350 square feet. And this is the kicker. This is the absolute best part. Using the government's own data, in order to make housing affordability, we need to double the housing starts and make nearly 500,000 units per year for the next 10 years. This initial $13 billion and the 4,000 units that they're looking at making, it's less than 1%. $13 billion devoted to meet less than a single percent of the goal of what needs to be done every single year to make housing affordable. This is a social housing experiment paid by you, paid by your tax dollars, because last I checked, the Canadian dream wasn't to own a box that is about 350 square feet or a unit where your kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and washroom are all in the same room. Last I checked, I wasn't working my butt off to have my taxes go to build affordable units funded by the government. I did not vote for the government to be taking on a new bureaucracy, spending tens of billions of dollars to barely make a dent in goal. The issues that we have currently are those of red tape. The government cannot come in, take your money, spend those taxes, create more inflation for you, make housing more unaffordable for you in order to build these tiny shoeboxes for people to live in because they can't get past the red tape that they created themselves. Ridiculous.
The federal government has launched its big new idea, the Build Canada Homes program, $13 billion. A promise to mass produce affordable housing, mostly using prefab construction, the kind of announcement that makes headlines and gives developers heartburn. On a panel this week, BC developers said what most people in the industry are quietly thinking. Nobody knows how this program actually works, or whether it duplicates what CMHC is already doing, or whether it just creates another layer of bureaucracy that delays projects instead of speeding them up. One developer said he's skeptical prefab is the panacea Ottawa thinks it is, especially in dense urban sites where you're building 200-unit towers, not cabins in a field. Another developer compared the program to Arrive Can. That's not a compliment. The real question isn't whether the federal government should support housing, it's whether they can deliver it efficiently. History suggests otherwise, yes. And most builders know the risk isn't just high costs. It's well-connected modular groups getting rich while everyone else waits for a house that never shows up. At the same time, some argue the government is ignoring the demand side. Capital gains deferrals, broader GST rebates, policies that would bring buyers back. Instead, we keep getting announcements that sound big and build small. If governments built homes with intentions, we'd be done by now, but intentions don't pour foundations. If you're house hunting and losing hope, watch the Instant Buyers seminar. It's in the Stan store.
Somebody explain to me how this is anything but a money laundering situation that's going on in Canada. A couple days ago, the so-called Build Canada Homes project was announced by creepy Mark Carney and the Liberal Party of Canada. $13 billion to initially build 4,000 homes, allegedly up to 45,000 homes. The sizes of which I've been looking on the government's website, many of them are between 650 and 1,050 square feet. Very small homes. The math isn't mathing for me. How is this not blatant, out in the open money laundering that we've continually seen from what independent judiciary has consistently said was one of the most corrupt governments in Canadian history, in Justin Trudeau's government, whether it's the We Charity scandal, the SNC Lavalin scandal, time and time again not going through the proper procurement procedures to get projects approved. How is this not just a blatant continuation? Brookfield Asset Management, where Mark Carney spent 10 years of his career prior to being elected Prime Minister of Canada, though if you dig into the Liberal leadership race, very odd. Only 300,000 people voting in a country of over 41 million. And Ruby Dalla, the only woman willing to be critical of Carney, summarily dismissed despite paying the $25,000 entry fee. Brookfield Asset Management is heavily involved in the building of these 4,000 rental units, and the math just isn't adding up. They're taking $13 billion of Canadian taxpayer dollars after having already run up a nearly $62 billion deficit. The Canadian people being in dire financial straits due to Liberal mismanagement over the past decade, somehow mismanaging our finances to that tune, despite the fact that being the second largest land mass in the world and having the most incredible opportunity through natural resources, yet through, whether it be through green initiatives, through straight no corruption, the Liberals have wrecked Canada's financing. But $13 billion, 13 billion Canadian taxpayer dollars in order to build between 4 and 45,000 homes. The most charitable possible math is that these are costing $3.25 million per home. How does that make any sense whatsoever? The answer is it doesn't. On the government's own website, they list these homes as between 650 and 1,050 square feet. They are not even trying to hide it anymore. The fact that the Liberal Party of money is literally stealing our money, stealing the Canadian taxpayers' money out in the open, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. The same government that's allowing 1.5 million people into the country in the year 2025, despite the fact that they're only building 220,000 homes when we already have a housing crisis, when we already have an excess of 70,000 Canadians dying every year due to a overwhelmed healthcare system. They know that middle and lower class Canadians are going to get absolutely hammered by continuing to allow this number of immigrants in, yet they continue. And they've reached a stage now where they don't even try and hide their corruption. It's just wide out in the open. Mark Carney is in the House of Commons for 2 days after 13 months off after the proroguement of government and summer vacation, and he's off. He jets off to Mexico. They're not even pretending anymore. When are we going to see a revolution in this country? Because the way that the government has treated us over the past decade is as abominable. I would match it up with any other government in the Western world. Any other government. For Canada to have a 7.1% unemployment rate, a 22% unemployment rate among young men, with the incredible resources and land mass that we have in this country, it can only be intentional. There's no other explanation for what's going on in Canada. The resources we have, whether it be through LNG, whether it be through oil, are unlike nearly any other country in the world. Yet they continue to say if we can't profit off it, we are not going to take advantage of it. Canadians need to wake up the hell up. We need a revolution in this country. This is just out in the open money laundering that Mark Carney and the Liberal Party believe that the Canadian people are not going to react to. They appoint Chrystia Freeland, the head of the convoy to Ukraine, after she resigns. They sent $22 billion to Ukraine. When are we going to get a forensic audit on exactly how that money is being spent? When are we going to get a forensic audit on everything that our government is doing? This government, with a so-called chief economist, Mark Carney, running it, and the guy is the most elitist piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. They're not even putting the budget out until November 4th. That's about 6 months late compared to traditional Canadian governments. The way he talks down to the Canadian people in the House of Commons makes you want to throw up. Watch this guy speaks. Hey, motherfucker, you're not the fucking king of this country. You work for us. We don't work for you, you fuck. I and many other Canadians are getting goddamn sick of this. We need to demand accountability of our elected leaders. This scumbag thinks that he can just rob us by... I've submitted FOI requests. We must demand a forensic audit, details into what is going on with the Build Canada Homes Act. How are we justifying a $13 billion hijacking of Canadian taxpayer dollars to build between 4,000 and 45,000 homes? It makes no sense. The math ain't mathing, and we're not just going to let it go. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member if you're interested in helping shape this movement from the ground up. If you're watching on TikTok, make sure you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/AppFight for Canada 2025, because I'm over 17,000 followers, and the Canadian government is not a big fan of distance. We're not letting these fuckers get away with this. We're not letting the Liberal Party of Canada steal our goddamn taxpayer dollars. Enough is enough. You're not getting away with it, you crook Carney.
And here's the hard truth. Mark Carney's housing plan, $13 billion to build just 4,000 homes, isn't the bold solution it's being sold as. It's a reminder of how broken the system really is. Let's think about this for a second. That's more than $3 million per unit. $3 million for a single home. In what world does that make sense? Not in the world where ordinary Canadians are scraping by, barely making rent, and watching the dream of homeownership disappear. If this is the kind of solution we're supposed to celebrate, then we're in serious trouble. Because it shows us the problem isn't a lack of money, it's a lack of priorities. Governments and elites are willing to throw billions of taxpayer dollars at programs that look good on paper, that make for shiny press conferences, but when you break it down, they barely make a dent in the actual crisis. 4,000 homes? That won't even put a crack in the surface of a nationwide housing shortage. And here's my opinion. This plan isn't about fixing the housing market, it's about optics. It's about powerful people like Mark Carney showing they care while the system keeps running exactly the same way. Housing isn't being built for families. It isn't being built for first-time buyers. It isn't even being built for ordinary renters. It's being built to protect investors, developers, and a market that treats homes as chips in a casino instead of roofs over people's heads. Imagine if that $13 billion were spent differently. Imagine affordable housing projects across the country, tens of thousands of units that ordinary families could actually afford. Imagine stricter rules on corporate landlords, on foreign buyers, on speculative flipping that drives prices sky high. Imagine investing in co-ops, in community housing, in real solutions that make life better for Canadians, not for balance sheets. That's what bold action looks like. That's what leadership looks like. But instead, we get 4,000 homes for 40 million people. So I'll turn it back to you. Do you really believe this plan will help you? Do you think $13 billion for 4,000 homes is progress? Or is it proof that the system is rigged against ordinary Canadians? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your stories, because this channel is about your voice, not theirs. And if you're tired of being ignored, if you're tired of watching tax dollars vanish into plans that do nothing for the people who actually need help, then hit that subscribe button and join us here at Canadian Rant. Because the more of us who speak out, the harder it becomes for the elites to brush us aside. This isn't just a channel, it's a community, a place where frustration turns into action, where Canadians come together to demand real solutions. Because at the end of the day, no Canadian should have to fight this hard just to put a roof over their head in one of the richest countries in the world. This is Canadian Rant, your voice, your fight, your community, and together, we won't be ignored.